State-owned entities say about 10 billion rand is spent annually to beef up security and fight cable theft. Eskom, Prasa, Telkom and Transnet were part of the Economic Sabotage of Critical Infrastructure Forum held in Sandton today. The forum hopes to find solutions to tackle this problem. eNCA's Pule Letshwiti-Jones was there and joins me for an update. Pule, thanks so much. What are SOEs saying could be the solution to resolving the crimes, including copper cable theft and vandalism relating specifically to economic sabotage?
That number there, 10 billion, just tells you how much they're spending in terms of trying to beef up the security and ensuring that the protection of state infrastructure is actually prioritized. But on the ground, it's a different story. We are seeing how, especially the city of Joburg has been complaining about the issue of cable theft, but it's not only in the city of Joburg, extensively so. If you zoom out, you see what has been happening in Cape Town as well in terms of gangsterism and extortion from some of the construction companies wanting to get money in order for them to protect the state facilities, and that's criminality. And one may also argue as to if this money is being channeled to such incidences of having to ensure that security is beefed up, what happens next? But the SOEs are saying that it's just much more beyond there having to be security. It's an effort that needs the intelligence as well as members of the SAPS. But very interesting so as well, we got to see how in terms of Prasa has now started working with some of the communities which are within around the train stations, because community members know sometimes who are some of these criminals, and therefore they can help these SOEs and management when having to track down some of these criminals. It was quite interesting to see how there were so many ideas being shared today at the Round Table Forum, and perhaps we can just take into what some of them were earlier today.
And if we were to set up proper capacity, I know TPL in our case already does quite a lot of work around that. When people are arrested, they help to make sure that they walk with the case right through, and that's why we've been able to at least get one conviction to date out of their activities. So the idea is that if we would collectively ensure that whenever there was an arrest, we made sure to support the police in the collection of the evidence, we watched the case right through to the very end, we would actually see a significant improvement in the conviction rate. And rather, let's watch, because it's pointless having laws that say minimum sentence 10 years, 15 years, and yet nobody ends up behind bars for the 10 years or the 15 years. So the objective, and as we've indicated, if we're spending 10 billion rand on security, it's easy enough to set aside a small sum of money to put together a very highly skilled forensics team, because I think we all agree that the one serious challenge is that we have not yet been able to catch the true kingpins. We've been arresting the runners, which won't get us anywhere.
Well, I spoke to the spokesperson for Prasa last night about incidents of violence on the central line, and asking them whether there had been instances of extortion. She didn't want to comment right out, because I think there are a lot of complexities and sensitivities at play. So clearly there are overlapping types of crime. But given the complex nature of trying to police or secure state infrastructure, let's talk about Prasa specifically. Do they think they can still fight the scourge of railway vandalism? Yeah, they can. If you listen to what Portia Derby had to say there from Transnet, is that the problem is with the conviction rate. If they apprehend some of these criminals and they have to go through a trial or court case, that's where the backlog is. And in most times, these cases go nowhere. They're back in the streets again, and they continue with these criminal activities. But also, furthermore, what we now understand is that they're trying to pin down the kingpins, and that's the problem. The runners are the ones that they apprehend, so it defeats the purpose. But most importantly, like she said, if we're spending 10 billion rand on security, can't we just have a portion of that to get, specialists, forensic investigators and other, well-trained intelligent agents to look into some of these crimes, and perhaps it can lead them somewhere. But sorry, Pule, is it clear? Are people talking about organized crime?
Yes, it is organized crime. It's a modus operandi. It's spiraling out of control. It's not only happening in Cape Town, KZN, it's happening in Gauteng, it's happening. And if you listen to the next clip we'll be playing, you get to understand that what Prasa is trying to do is a well-coordinated plan to work with community members. If you look at the railway line and connection from Pretoria to Maopani Station, you get to realize that it's already working. There hasn't been any cases of vandalism, and that's because they're working with community members. And you know, perhaps that's one thing that could work for some of these SOEs. If you listen to the program yesterday with The Nation, with my colleague Bradan and other panelists, you get to realize they're saying the community members know who these criminals are, and they're the ones that can actually cure this illness. And therefore, this is what Prasa is trying to do in terms of ensuring that they protect their infrastructure.
The inclusivity of communities within the area play a very big role in our security. The incident in the Western Cape was highlighted recently in the media space. However, there have been multiple incidents that stretch from Gauteng to KZN as well as the Western Cape. The reasoning behind it is multiple reasoning, of which we look at from an intelligence-driven operation, as well as identifying exactly what the issues are, working together with law enforcement and our counterparts on the ground to find the reasoning, the grouping behind it, and what leads to these type of incidents.
Of course, the police have a very important role to play along with SOEs and communities in making sure, and obviously in private security companies. So what is SAP saying?
Obviously, you know, the quote would have been them saying we're not losing the fight. They believe that it's all hands on deck. They believe that they're trying by all means to alleviate these crimes. You listen to the Minister of Police, Begekele, making some of these submissions in Parliament saying they are not losing the ball yet. They are on track in terms of, you know, trying to make sure the conviction rate improves and ensure that all of these criminals, but most importantly, these kingpins are behind bars and therefore resolving some of these crimes. But for now, on the ground, it's a different story, Annalie. It's quite bad how we're looking at, you know, a cable theft happening and copper as well happening. We're also being told how police are trying to track where some of these copper cables are being taken to. For now, it seems as though they are crossing the border to some of the neighboring countries, and they're saying that they're trying to speak to governments of the neighboring countries to actually alert them when some of these incidences are happening, where we're seeing trucks being discovered at the borderlines with huge, massive copper cables and you know, some of those instruments that are being sold outside the country. So it's a large task that lies ahead for the members of the SAPS, but they're quite confident that they're on track in terms of ensuring that there's transparency and safety, much more importantly.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was our reporter Pule Letshwiti-Jones giving us an update on that multidisciplinary approach.